So in this life, don't you try to move too fast, or the good times will roll by. So don't just slip by. These days they will come and go. That's how you build a good life. One step, two steps, three, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older, trying to figure out where I fit in. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. One step, 2 steps, 3, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older, trying to figure out where I fit in. So in this life, hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Don't you try to move too fast. So in this life, hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. Just hold yourself tight. You need to. Don't you try to move too fast. Just hold yourself tight. Please do. Everything will work out fine. Hold yourself tight. Yeah. So in this life, don't you try to move too fast, or the good times will roll by. So don't just slip by. These days they will come and go. That's how you build a good life. One step, 2 steps, 3, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older, trying to figure out where I fit in. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. One step, 2 steps, 3, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older, trying to figure out where I fit in. to move too fast, or the good times will roll by.
Daniel will be the chairperson of today's debate. The motion for today's debate is: this House prefers anthropocentrism over biocentrism in environmental policy making. Before I proceed, allow me to read the rules and regulations of the debate. The government is Team A, while the opposition is Team B. All members of Team A, please raise your hand. Thank you. The first speaker, second speaker, and third speaker from both teams are given 8 minutes to deliver his or her speech. The timekeeper will ring the bell once after the first minute and at the end of the 7th minute to signal the end of time allocated for the points of information. At the end of the 8th minute, the bell will be rung twice. The third speaker from both teams shall not introduce any new arguments. Their role is mainly to rebut. After all debaters have spoken once, the first or second debater for each team gives a reply speech, with the opposition reply being delivered first and the government second. A maximum of 3 minutes will be given to both teams to prepare the reply speech. During the reply speech, the timekeeper will ring the bell once at the 3rd minute to signal the debater has 1 minute left. At the end of the 4th minute, the bells will be rung twice to signal the end of the debate. Now allow me to introduce the timekeeper for today's debate, Alisha Hani Binti Bani Sahabat. Next, it gives me a great honor to introduce to you the adjudicators for today's debate. The chief adjudicator is Madam Giovanna. Next is Miss Grace. Next is Mr. Chuan. Next is Mr. Fitri. Next is Madam Vivian. Next is Madam Noor Ayman Ahmad Tajuddin. Then we have with us Madam Siti Noor Atika. Now allow me to introduce the debaters for today. The affirmative of government is Team A. It is led by the Prime Minister Muhammad Harith Rizki bin Muhammad Azhar. The second minister is Amritpan Singh Bira. The third minister is Sharda Sharat Chandran. The negative or opposition is Team B. It is led by the opposition leader Yap Sing Yi. The second opposition member is Muhammad Irfan bin Zulkifli. The third opposition member is Wan Ahmad Yusuf bin Wan Muhammad Yusuf. Members of the House, allow me to repeat the motion for today's debate. This House prefers anthropocentrism over biocentrism in environmental policy making. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister to deliver his speech.
Salutations and greetings, I bid to the most honorable speaker of the House, to the precise timekeeper, to the most honorable adjudicators, to the fellow opponents whom I very much respect, to my comrades fighting alongside me, and to all members of this floor. I am standing as the Prime Minister, are going to be tabling the motion, this House prefers anthropocentrism over biocentrism in environmental policy making. Now, let's take a look and define the key words. First, environmental, which means connected with the natural conditions in which people, animals, and plants live, connected with the environment. Second, policy making, which means a plan or action agreed or chosen by a government, a company, or etc. In this case, a government. Third, environmental policy making, of which our side defined as a plan of action of agreed or chosen by a government that is connected with the natural conditions in which people, animals, and plants live. Now, let's take a look at the two key definitions that I would like to make very clear. First, the word anthropocentrism, which human first in environmental decisions, and the second, the word biocentrism, which believe that all living things have value, not only humans. Environmental decisions should protect animals, plants, and other living things. Now, let's take a look at the case line I'm going to be present for side government. First, let's take a look at the parameter. This debate is a value debate, hence does not need a precise mechanism. We will also be talking in the general context of the status quo. And also, we would like to make one thing very clear. By putting human needs first does not mean we are setting aside the environment. We are standing on the grounds where we believe that in the pursuit of preserving the environment, human needs and welfare must come first. We are not diminishing the environment, we are just saying human needs have to come first. Now, let's take a look at the status quo, the current world we live in. In the status quo, anthropocentrism is typically more alleviated comparatively to biocentric principles. Countries such as China, Germany, and the United Kingdom are prominent examples of anthropocentric countries in terms of approaching the environment. Whilst biocentrism remains as a prominent force in other countries, it lacks the same prominence that anthropocentrism has. Now, there exist multiple problem statements. First, humans principally should be prioritized over nature, albeit we are not diminishing, nor are we undermining the importance of nature and biodiversity. Second, no thank you, I'll take you later. The fundamental philosophy of policymaking is for it to put humans as its main benefactors. Third, societal progression and prosperity should remain as the primary objective in any decision making. Now, how do our world look like? Side government defines our world that we will be putting people first over any kind of other living beings, whilst environment is put in line with human interests. Now, the burden of proof for side government is we are going to prove that preferring anthropocentrism as a concept in the creation of environmental policy making is necessary. Second, we are also going to be proving that putting humans' needs and well-being first is justified. We would like to present three burden of proof to side opposition. First, side opposition have to prove that biocentrism is the superior preference. Second, prove that balance should be prioritized over progress. And third, prove that putting environment on the same par with human needs, despite halting necessary development, is justified.
POI?
Now, yes, I will take a POI.
When the years of the past have disrupted the entire ozone layer and the climate change, do you think to that extent the humans have responsibility towards the environment?
Thank you so much. As I want to say again, we are not diminishing the environment as something that is very important. I would like to take one example. Right now, in history, countries and humans, all of us put human needs first before other living beings. But we still safeguard the environment. For example, the Paris Accord, where every single country in the world agrees to stop making something that harms the ozone layer. We still put humans first, but at the same time, we still safeguard the environment. I hope that answers your POI. Now, let's take a look at the first core argumentation on our side, which is human welfare must remain as the highest priority. Why? Because this is the thing, I would like to characterize it to make it very clear. Natural, it's very natural of social order of moving forward in time. As we move forward in time, human needs will increase. Environmental compromise will also take place. And although policy making regarding the environment still take place, humans are placed as the center of focus in this policy making. Because here's the thing, many development fundamentals ultimately require some environmental sacrifice. Unfortunately, but that's the truth. But side government believes to cater to this problem, we cannot put every living being at the same level that might jeopardize human needs. And we also believe that environmental policy making will still be directed to sustain the environment as long as the outcome benefits human needs. I would like to make it very clear. Do you know, for example, building hospitals, building schools, construction sites, etc. When you build these human necessities, it will ultimately harm the environment, but human still needs it. That is how our world looks.
POI?
We will put, no thank you, I'll take you later. We will put human needs first, but at the same time, as we do this kind of thing, we will try to sustain the environment. That, for example, reducing carbon emission and etc. But human needs must come first. Again, I would like to clarify that we are not diminishing the environment. We are saying that the environment should be sustained in line with human interests. Ultimately, continuing on, we would like to also say human needs and human wants are two very different things. When it comes to compromising the environment, human needs should be put first, as it is necessary and also natural to put humans first before any kind of other living beings. Ultimately, it will compromise the environment. But that is the reality. Humans have to come first. Biocentrism cannot exist with our current reality. Not to an extent, it should be preferred over anthropocentrism. Why? Because here's the thing. To quote the United Nations Environmental Board themselves, it's natural. It's our mandate to put humans' welfare first, even if it unfortunately means compromising some parts of the environment. Because here's the thing, we are also the one that is going to be making this policy that will protect the environment. We care about the environment. We care about the plants. We care about the animals. But one thing, we have to care for ourselves first. We have to put human needs first. In our side, we would like to strive for a society where environmental protection remains important. Second, human welfare and development remain as the highest priority. Third, people use nature responsibly without treating it as superior to humanity. That is the world our side strives for. And just the impact. Public policy should first improve human well-being while minimizing environmental harm. That have to be made very clear. And I would like to say the stance for side government, and that is we support this motion because although the environment matters, human needs must come first. Again, I would like to make one thing very clear. We are not diminishing the environment. We are not diminishing plants and animals. We are saying human interests must align with environmental policy making to make sure that every kind of policy that government wants to push caters to our needs first, and that is caters to the environment. With that, I hope the motion passes. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 4 seconds. Thank you. Now I would like to invite the opposition leader to deliver her speech.
It is completely illogical when you want to protect the environment, you selfishly prioritize yourself as a human being over the mass majority of stakeholders in the ecosystem, which also involves animals, which also involves plants, where they're willing to sacrifice and they're willing to neglect on their side of house. Few responses on their case, right? Firstly, on a point where they're not setting aside environment, even during the POI that my second speaker gave, they're being completely dismissive, right? Two main responses. Number one, we're telling that it's false. When you're prioritizing human right, it very likely means that you're neglecting all the environment to begin with. This can be seen through, for example, factories. When you prioritize human rights to want to gain profit, to improve your economy, it's most likely you're willing to cut down trees in the forest. Secondly, we're telling that the example they given, the Paris Accord, is more likely to be biocentrist because we prioritize the environment to begin with. They're not prioritizing human needs, and they've been altering the entire setup on their side of house, not willing to accept that they are the side government in today's debate, right? Second response, on policy making is the benefit of humans. We thought that this in of itself is already a false characterization later. I thought itself policy making is already a benefit humans in of itself is already a false characterization because we thought that policy making is to achieve the goal. If it means that environmental policy making, it is to achieve the goal of improving the environment. It's not to achieve the goal to improve humanity or improve humans' benefit or whatsoever. Before setup, sure.
Do you believe that building hospitals will harm the environment in some way?
We try that, okay, this comes in conflict when you're able to prioritize human needs. In this case, you're going to prioritize humans, which means that you're still willing to cut down trees in the forest. You're still willing to sacrifice all these habitats that these animals are willing to live in. We're trying in status quo, where urbanization is constantly happening, you hold the policy and you hold the responsibility to have all this environmental making, right? Which is exactly why you need to, at the very least, have the regulation of biocentrism to, at the very least, ensure that these hospitals do not overbuild, these factories do not overbuild. At the very least, on our side, we're able to have this regulation instead of just saying, oh, there's a lot of sick people.
PY,
Build
please.
as much hospital as you want. Cut off as many forests as you want. That is happening on their side of house. No, thank you. Onto the setup, right? They've been completely dismissive onto the setup. They've never gave us a clear visualization of what their side looks like, right? We talk about environmental policy making. It's not just to help the policy environment. It's not just the policy that benefits the environment, that helps the environment, because it also impacts. It also includes policy that impacts and involves the environment. It means that, for example, economy policy making, where it involves the environment, where you need to build more factories. These are also involved and included under environmental policy making, where they're most likely able to neglect all this environment when they're so-called saying, oh, we're trying to protect the environment. That is illogical and that is irrational coming from their side of house, right? And also, in terms of status quo, two main things, right? Number one, we're trying to, in status quo, there's already a lot of many issues that is very urgent and has a sense of urgency that needs to be solved today and right now and right here. What does this look like? This looks like climate change. This looks like all these greenhouse effects that is constantly happening in status quo. If we do not prioritize biocentrism, if we do not prioritize all these environments that have this sense of urgency, it just worsens the environment and you already lose the sense on their side of house. Secondly, we humans are already in the process of urbanization, which means that we have the incentive to create more cities. We have the incentive for what, like they said, create more hospital. Therefore, we have to prioritize the environment in this case to, at the very least, ensure our earth is not being destroyed due to overbuilding of all these hospitals, due to overbuilding of all these factories, for the incentive of where they prioritize human, that we need more money, we need more profit coming from their side of house. And also, thirdly, environmental movement. We're talking about all these environmental movement or social movement that you see, right? They only have one main goal. It is to benefit all the individuals, that is to benefit all the living things as well as environment in this case, right? Now, on to clarification, two main clarification. Number one, where there's two possible scenarios in today's debate that we'll be talking about. First scenario, where these two, biocentrism and anthropocentrism, are able to coexist together. This is not exclusive. This is exactly what the first speaker has been larping on about all throughout his speech, because this is able to exist on our side of the house. If these two things does not come in it does not contradict each other, there's no need to prioritize one over another. There's no need to choose whether you want anthropocentrism or you want biocentrism. Therefore, the debate is supposed to be on to the second scenario, where there is conflict between these two policies, where why are they willing to prioritize humanity over overall environment on our side of the house, when their main goal and their main stance is to protect the environment, never stated and never clarified on their side of the house. Burden of proof here today is simple. We're able to make better environmental policy by prioritizing biocentrism, which means that we're able to equalize all stakeholders in the ecosystem. What does this mean? Humans, animals, living things, all these plants are able to stand in the same ground and the same place on our side of the house. We give equal stance to all these individuals, right? Our stance is simple. On our side, we're able to prove to you why is biocentrism approach is way better than anthropocentrism approach in policy making to benefit the environment, to impact the environment in a good way. First argument then. On to better environmental policy. Before that, sure.
Do you agree that we should stop building schools and hospitals for the environment?
That's exactly what I've been saying. I've been answering this already through the POI that you said just now. There's hospitals, there's schools that needs to be prioritized and needs to be built. We agree to that fact. But the moment that you prioritize human needs over this environment, it means that the overpopulated places, for example, like overpopulated places, they will overbuild schools, they will overbuild hospitals that is not necessary due to the profit of companies saying, I want more profit in this area because there's so many people in this case. We do not want people overcutting forests later. We do not want people overcutting forests and overcutting trees due to all these profit-driven incentive companies, due to all these profit-driven individuals that want to prioritize themselves and prioritize humanity only, when your main stance is to prioritize the environment and help the environment to begin with. First argument then, onto the first layer, how we're able to help the environment. Two main criteria. Number one, we're able to benefit the environment to begin with. We're able to protect their habitat, the forest. We're able to protect their basic needs. They were able to protect their survivability. And secondly, we were able to fulfill our own responsibility as the human race, because we are the one that is most capable on this earth. We are the one that is most knowledgeable in this earth. This can be proven like all this innovation and advancement that us humans have made in status quo. All these buildings that we are capable and we are knowledgeable enough to hold this large of a responsibility on this earth today, right? Which is exactly why we try that it's important to hold on to stronger the principle and the responsibility to take care of this environment, to not be as selfish as their side of house, to constantly prioritize themselves, build more schools, build more hospitals, don't care about the animals, don't care about the habitat. That is exactly what they're trying to achieve, and that is exactly what we're trying to say no to. Second layer, how we're able to achieve better environment through biocentrism. We're trying that we're able to fulfill the responsibility through biocentrism because we equalize all stakeholders. We don't prioritize one over another in this case, which is exactly why we're already able to think rationally and decide rationally which one is more in a dire situation. For example, right, this can be seen through forest reservation, for example, like Taman Negara, where we are able to prioritize animals, we're able to prioritize plants where all these Harimau Malaya, all these tapir, they are in crisis, they're in facing extinction. But it's exactly where we're able to prioritize them over our own benefit of cutting down Taman Negara and just build another hospital and build another school on their side of house, right? We thought our impact is simple in today's debate. Number one, we're able to protect the species, and number two, we're able to protect human in this case because we're not overlooking any stakeholders. We're able to rationally decide everyone that's involved in the ecosystem in today's debate, that we are able to rationally think and rationally decide what is better for the environment today. As well as number two, we protect all stakeholders. There's equal stance, there's equal moral value. If on today's debate, when human itself is already being selfish, how exactly are you going to prioritize and achieve your own stance of benefiting environment? Therefore, so proud to oppose. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
I'm so frustrated.
Thank you. Now I call upon the second minister from the government to deliver his speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really admire the side opposition for making the case look like a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, because it is very mesmerizing, ladies and gentlemen, on the surface. But when you try to look into it, when you try to find a meaning, an average human cannot understand, ladies and gentlemen. That is a summary of the case in very simple and words, ladies and gentlemen. Right. But before I continue expanding my case with new ideas and rebutting the points, I would just like to bid honorable greetings to the panel of adjudicators, Madam Speaker, Madam Timekeeper, worthy opponents, and members of the floor. Now, first of all, I would like to rebut a few key points provided by the first speaker of side opposition. Now, she mentioned that when we are prioritizing anthropocentrism, it doesn't, right? Their whole understanding of this motion is flawed, right, ladies and gentlemen, from the definition itself. They confuse human needs and human wants, ladies and gentlemen. But when clearly in the info slide, it is clearly written that anthropocentrism puts human needs and well-being first in environmental decisions, ladies and gentlemen. When they mention about profit, when they mention about anything else that is not needs, ladies and gentlemen, that simply does not satisfy the needs of this motion, ladies and gentlemen. That is why that is flawed. Now, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker also mentions that there are a lot of issues, for example, climate change, among other issues. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you, we are humans, we are made of skin, we are made of metals, ladies and gentlemen. Climate change also affects us. And that is exactly what this policy is about, ladies and gentlemen. And I will prove to you later in my points how a large majority of these environmental policies, later please, I'll prove to you that how this large majority of environmental policies in the world, they are based on an anthropocentrism way of thinking, ladies and gentlemen. I will prove it to you, don't worry, rest assured. Ladies and gentlemen, when my first speaker asked the other side POI regarding hospitals and schools, if you apply the philosophy of biocentrism, then these needs are going to be abandoned. They, ladies and gentlemen, they simply dodged the question. They said that it is basically supporting their side, ladies and gentlemen, but that is not true. Ladies and gentlemen, hospitals and schools are human needs. Education is a form of human need. Healthcare is a form of human need, ladies and gentlemen. If we cut down forests to build to build hospitals, to build schools, we also replant them, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly an example of anthropocentrism over biocentrism, ladies and gentlemen. Anthropocentrism doesn't say that humans are more important than the environment, ladies and gentlemen. Anthropocentrism says that if we have to make a choice, ladies and gentlemen, we should choose humans. Meanwhile, we minimize the effect on environment, ladies and gentlemen. That is what anthropocentrism is about. Now, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to accept one of the POIs. Yes, please.
Okay, profit is considered as human needs because if you don't have profit, it's not able that you're able to sustain the hospital from continuing. It's more likely on your side that hospital will go to bankruptcy without profits.
Thank you very much. I will make that clear in my points later. Please be rest assured, right? Now, our second point for this side over here, my first point is that biocentrism is idealistic, ladies and gentlemen. Just like I mentioned in my opening before, on the paper, it sounds very wonderful, it sounds very good. But ladies and gentlemen, when we put it into action, it doesn't work. Now, the status quo established by my first speaker says that a large majority of countries have adopted an anthropocentric philosophy in policy making regarding environmental issues. Ladies and gentlemen, now try to ask yourselves why. Why is anthropocentric philosophy applied widely throughout the whole world, ladies and gentlemen? I have the question to that. It isn't because policymakers have not heard of biocentrism, but ladies and gentlemen, they understand that although biocentrism sounds good on paper, it is simply not practical, hence not feasible, ladies and gentlemen. That is the truth. And ladies and gentlemen, if a world, in the current world where we live in, where development and production is not a choice, but a necessity, ladies and gentlemen, biocentrism is simply not feasible and absolute and obsolete when put into respect with the modern needs of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, the question is, what are the needs of humanity? Humanity needs food, ladies and gentlemen, that comes from agriculture. Now that also overlaps with profit. Their side, ladies and gentlemen, only sees one side of the coin. They're saying that everything that humans do are basically for profit. Agriculture, yes, it can be for profit, but at the end, it also puts food into your stomach, ladies and gentlemen. That is the mere definition of human needs, ladies and gentlemen. Healthcare, hospitals. Hospital, you need to go to a hospital, you need to pay money. That is profit as well. But also, it is a human need. If you're sick, you need to get treatment, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly what we're doing. If you're developing something for the human needs, ladies and gentlemen, that is not wrong. Our side says that when we have to make a tough choice between environment and human needs, ladies and gentlemen, human needs should be prioritized. But at the same time, we are saying that we are minimizing the effect on environment that our choices are taking over here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put it into perspective. Right, European Union, which consists of 27 member states, has introduced a lot of policies regarding environment that is, ladies and gentlemen, not biocentric but anthropocentric. Now, let me give you a few examples. Renewable Energy Directive, RED 3, Energy Efficiency Directive, EED, Waste Framework Directive, and Water Framework Directive. In fact, I have a long list over here. I can go on the whole day about it, but I would not like to waste the House's time. I think these three are enough to sufficient the point over here. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if biocentrism was really working, then wouldn't it be the status quo right now? Wouldn't the status quo be that biocentrism is the main focus, is the main philosophy applied in policy making, ladies and gentlemen? Simply, ladies and gentlemen, the thing is that their side says that humans as intelligent beings play a role in maintaining environment. That is true, ladies and gentlemen, but then again, it doesn't mean that environment and human needs should be on the same par. Ladies and gentlemen, in the current world we live in, it is simply not feasible because clearly the development, the benefit development brings clearly outweighs the downsides of ignoring the environment, which is what the other side is accusing us of. Yes.
If historically humans have been so harmful towards the environment, why is it so the development of humanity justifies the harm of so many species getting extinct under your side of the house?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was before policies were applied, ladies and gentlemen. Policies, environmental policies didn't even exist back then. Environmental policies, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, when did it start to exist? 30 years ago. And most of those extinction, ladies and gentlemen, although there are still extinctions in the current time, most of the extinctions happened before 30 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, which substantiates that their POI does not make sense. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let me just reinforce the stance of our side, which is that we support this motion because although the environment matters, human needs must come first. Ladies and gentlemen, when we are intelligent beings, we are responsible towards the environment. But clearly, when we weigh it properly, ladies and gentlemen, our needs as humans outweigh environment, ladies and gentlemen, because we have the responsibility to protect environment, and in order to protect environment first, we have to protect ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we should not protect environment from humans, we should protect environment for humans, ladies and gentlemen. That is what our side stands for. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 44 seconds.
Thank you. Now I call upon the second opposition member to deliver his speech.
Just to check with the judges, I'm audible at this volume. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, 3 days ago, I stubbed my foot and I hurt myself. But it was side government that completely shot themselves in the foot to the extent that they said that, hey, humans are more important than the environment in the discussion of environmental policy making. The problem with this side government, they did not understand what the policy wants, what this motion was, and truly to the extent we don't think they deserve to win. A couple of things I want to respond at the top of my speech. Firstly, this sort of idea that human needs are so important and human wants are two different things. Clearly, we think they already considered this in second speaker. That's that, sure, we think that it may be profit incentivized, but we still have it still fulfills human needs. The problem with this, you ignored how economies work. To sustain an economy, to sustain a country, you need profit, you need money. So that means by your own definition, profit is a human need. This completely contradicts and take down first and second speaker to that extent. But let's be charitable, panels. Let's take them even towards this regard. Second speaker brought out a weird idea about historically we have been using anthropocentrism, thus this is good. No layers of analysis on why this is objectively, no principle of justification on why this is justified under their side of the house exclusively. But lastly, they want to another thing they want to argue about, to the certain extent that humans are more important than the environment. Thus, the environment does not deserve of this sort of focus within policy making. Two main responses I'm going to give you to this. Number one, it's just our responsibility as humans to protect the environment. Look, in the past, we have created factories. We have done so many things that has disrupted the ecosystem. We have done so many things that has disrupted the entire environmental. Things like climate change, the icebergs melting in Antarctica. Those were the defaults of human. To that extent, panels, we believe the responsibility of those damages should be fixed by our side of the house. If you know how to break it, you know how to fix it. Second response then, about this motion itself. Look, we are in the discussion of environmental policy making. Thus, we have to argue to you why environment is able to manifest much better under our side of the house. If the debate was about whether biocentrism or anthropocentrism is much better on both sides, sure, they can take the win. But the problem is, this debate is about whether this environmental policy making is good or not in which approach. But lastly, I think just to respond really quickly about their example, they tried to claim that the UN said that we must sacrifice the environment if it means that humans are managed to be beneficial. This is a blatant lie, really quickly, panels, because even recently the United Nations literally said, oh, we must stop whatever we're doing because we are 3 years away before getting into a stage where climate change becomes irreversible. Do not believe into their lies. I think a majority of their case has fallen at this point. Two main substantive then coming from my speech. Second argument then, which is how we are able to have better support for these policies. We think this is important. Later on, I'll explain why under the impact. Three main layers to you I'm going to prove. Number one, why the environmental movement has such a strong cult following and support by the people. I think three major reasons why people opt into the environmental movement really easily. Number one, people are more knowledgeable within status quo. We think we have things such as the internet, such as social media. That means individuals are more likely to be educated, to know and be more knowledgeable about these sort of things. Secondly, people are just getting harmed by the climate change and the harms of the climate change. We think this looks like, for example, floods in Indonesia. We think this looks like heat waves in Europe. But to that extent, we think it harms people and people are more likely to be knowledgeable. Sure that you are.
When you say that climate change is harming human beings and you want to change it for human beings, are you not agreeing with us and putting human rights first and human needs first?
Here's the thing, the framing that you push, here's the problem, the framing that you push is that to the extent that you want to focus on sacrifice this sort of environmental movement, it means that you are actively sacrificing the environment. We already told you in first speaker, this debate is not about the contention where these two things are able to be aligned, because both sides, let's be real, both sides are able to have it, because you don't necessarily have to prioritize one or the other. But it is within the discussion when these two come into conflict, we believe that the environment should come first rather than humanity itself, because we have a justified responsibility to do so. Third thing then is about cultural beliefs on why we believe individuals opt into the environmental movement. Because to an extent, a lot of culture and a lot of religions teach you respect your surrounding, respect the environment, and you must protect them. To that extent, people believe that they have an obligation and responsibility to protect the environment. This makes it so that people already opt into the issue. People already believe that environment is something that is an issue. We think, thus, the environmental movement acts as a catalyst where people are able to voice out and show their support towards these sort of things. Second layer of analysis. Why is it then on the side government you completely lose the support of the entire environmental movement? It's simple. Because to the extent we believe that the environmental movement are very hardline on what they believe in. That is to say, they don't really compromise. They believe and they will hold to that belief to the end of time. The problem with this side government is to the extent that you completely contradict. You say that, hey, the environment doesn't matter that much as compared to humanity. That is when the environmental movement just loses support and loses hope for the entire policy. No, thank you. We think this can be exemplified to like the very recent policy that is done by Donald J. Trump, where he removed protection on protected land. To that extent, the entire global environmental movement completely opposed the entire policy. This is the world that they live in, a world where nobody supports their policy. But lastly then, on like the impact then, we think it's simple. Number one, under our sub-house, we are able to push just simply good policies, because to an extent, policies are only able to be good by having strong support. We look at these policies such as the educational plan, things such as the medical plan. No, thank you. To that extent, these sort of things are only able to manifest through strong support and grassroots support. They don't have this because you immediately cop out the losses to the extent you lose the most influential stakeholder in this debate. Before I continue, sure, up your eye.
Do you think you work the same as a tree?
Yeah, sure. We do believe that we work the same as a tree. As insofar, we're animals, they're animals, we live on the same planet. What makes our life more valuable than them? But I think it is exacerbated under their sub-house, because in the past 10 years, I've been cutting down 10 million trees. Then it is my responsibility to, at the very least, replant some of those trees that I've destroyed for so long. But let's talk about the second argument then, on like how we are able to end harmful precedents. I think this already contents with the idea of like, oh, anthropocentrism is good because we have been using it for so long. Three main layers of analysis under this. I think Senior has, unlike the stakeholder, status quo, I think Senior already told you why we have been harmful towards the environment for so long. To this extent, it creates a harmful precedent where I am able to do a push for policies that is harmful towards the environment and say, hey, the previous guy did it. Hey, the president in the past did it. To that extent, it is under their sub-house, you give them a justification to do even worse policy that harms the environment. It is to the extent where you allow to build factories in the past, to now in status quo, you allow like certain forests to be deconstructed to build AI data centers under their sub-house. But let's talk about the second layer of analysis. How does biocentrism end this precedent and create a counter precedent? We think it's simple. We are able to set this sort of thing as a counter precedent towards this idea. What do I mean by this? To the extent where you allow for these leaders to not be able to use this as a justification, we think this is important because in the future, where future leaders are able to make more and other policies, to that extent they will use this as a leverage to say, hey, we did it in the past, why can't we do it now? To the extent that in the past we have done so much good for the environment, why can't we do it now? This is important in the discussion even in the future, because this debate revolves around the future and long term. To that extent, panels, I don't think they can win, so oppose.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Thank you. Now I call upon the third minister from the government to deliver her speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine yourself living in an underdeveloped country, okay? You are lacking hospitals and you are in dire need of one. The opposition would tell everyone to not cut down a tree, to not remove few trees for the sake of a hospital that everyone, let me remind you, needs. I rise proudly as the third speaker of a side government to firmly stand with this motion because, ladies and gentlemen, nature should be protected for humanity and not instead of humanity. Now, let me begin by highlighting a couple of key clashes for today's debate. The first one, world versus world. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition world is ridiculous, okay? It's unrealistic. They want a world where balance outweighs progress. Not just progress, but necessity, ladies and gentlemen, the needs, human needs, what we need to live, ladies and gentlemen, what we need to survive. Our world, on the other hand, is policy making, environmental policy making, where the environment is taken into consideration, not ignored, but human needs are put first, which is most important for the survival of humanity as well as the environment. The second one, idealism versus realism. The opposition want to put everything on the same level. In fact, the second speaker even, and I quote, wanted to put environment before the importance of humans. I quote his speech. It's utterly unrealistic if they want humanity to survive, ladies and gentlemen. They are fighting for the environment while completely ignoring humanity, while our side puts both things puts the importance of both things clear in front of the judges. We say that human needs must come first, but we are not shunning the environment either, like my first and second speakers said. Now, moving on to what the first speaker said, she started her speech with the ozone layer and asked us a question: shouldn't humans have the responsibility towards the environment? Ladies and gentlemen, I answer that question: yes, we should have a responsibility towards the environment. But ladies and gentlemen, if you were posed with a question, should you put human needs before the environment? Yes, we answered that, ladies and gentlemen. The opposition is saying that we should put environment before human needs, which I will get to in a second because it doesn't actually go under the umbrella of today's motion. Sure. Yes, sure. When you concede that profit-driven is under human needs, when the harms of profit-driven outweigh the benefit of overbuilding hospitals, how exactly that it is beneficial for environmental policy making? Now, allow me to clarify on that just for a little bit. Excessive profit, ladies and gentlemen, that is what the opposition is talking about this morning. They talk about profit, but ladies and gentlemen, profit for hospitals is a need. Profit for fire stations is a need. Profit for schools is a need. Profit for factories, however, not a need anymore. And that right there is called excessive profiting, which doesn't fall under what my first and second speaker defined as human needs. Does that answer your POI? Moving on, she spoke about factories and climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just touch on that a little bit. Like my second speaker made very clear, we are already living in an anthropocentric world, where yes, we do put human needs first, but we are thinking about the environment. Now, let me just name you just a few of the environmental efforts that have already been taken, that have already been implemented and put in place. Number one, the Paris Agreement. I think everyone in this room knows what the Paris Agreement, that's how effective and that's how the impact of this Paris Agreement has affected all of us, which means we cannot say, the opposition cannot say that the government is shunning the environment. Give me 2 seconds, please. Moving on, the EU Environmental Policy and the UN Renewable and Energy Efficiency Directive. Ladies and gentlemen, the UN is a massive cooperation involving almost every nation in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and even they have environmental policies. So what does that tell you? That tells you that even in an anthropocentric world, we are still thinking about the environment. We are still putting the environment, we are still giving the environment importance, but what are we putting first? Human needs. Why? My first and second speaker have given you abundant reasons, but I will add on. Moving on, the second speaker said, yeah, sure.
As you said, that Paris Agreement is the form of like environmental efforts. What aspect of the Paris Agreement that pushes human needs more than the environment itself?
Okay, now let me talk about that for a little while. The Paris Agreement does not put environment before the human needs. It is an agreement that was put together because, yes, we agree that there was a problem with the environment more than 40 years ago. We agree there was an issue. We had the ozone layer depleting. We had climate change. But we are trying to solve all of that. The Paris Agreement is an initiative. It's an effort to solve a problem that, yes, we humanity have agreed that there is. Now, the question is, are we putting solving that problem before what we need
first. Now, let me give you a little bit of a thing here called Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Now, on the base level of Maslow's hierarchy is shelter and food. It is clear, ladies and gentlemen, that means we must listen to this hierarchy of needs, human needs, and we must put shelter and food first. Humans need shelter and food, which means building houses in underdeveloped countries is a need. Even if it does mean put deforestation, minor deforestation for the good and for the betterment of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where the government stands. Moving on, the second speaker, I quote, "If you break it, you need to fix it." Ladies and gentlemen, what part of our government's case today tells you that we are not fixing it? We are. There are initiatives, there are effort. We are caring about the environment too. We are caring about the environment, and I've proven it to you with the many efforts and initiatives taken by all the governmental groups, all the massive multinational international organizations that have come together to solve this very real and very current problem. You cannot, opposition, say that we are shunning the environment, because that's not what we're doing in government. Moving on, the second speaker, I quote, "Environment before humans." Ladies and gentlemen, as a human, you are a human, we are humans, everyone in this room is a human. Would you put the importance of a tree outside your house if it is, for example, say, breaking the windows? You know these trees, they can climb up the side of your house, they can break your windows, they can ruin what we call shelter. Are you going to put the importance of that tree over the importance of your home? Like what I gave at the start of my speech with underdeveloped countries and hospitals needing to be built. Would you prioritize the trees? Would you prioritize the forest if we need hospitals, if we need healthcare, if we need fire stations, if we need schools? Ladies and gentlemen, again, going back to what I meant by human necessities. The second speaker said, and this is a very important point, we are allowing policies that hurt the environment. They put that claim on us. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the opposition doesn't understand what environmental policy making is. Environmental policy making means that we do think about the environment. These policies are for the environment. But the thing is, they need to put humans first. Environmental policy making is exactly what I said, putting the environment first, efforts and initiatives to put the environment first, which is exactly what the government is doing. We're not against it, but instead, we are putting human needs before environment in this environmental policy making. What does a government do? A government governs its people. A government puts its people's needs before anything else. A government puts its citizens' needs before anything else, and that is exactly what the government stands for today. Now, before I end my speech, allow me to reinstate the stance for today's debate. We support this motion because although the environment matters, human needs must come first. For all those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Stand with me. I need you to do something. I have to change something. Take up balance and pick up progress. So this clash doesn't exist. This clash is good. This clash take up progress and balance. Change the progress and balance.
Is it balance or progress?
Take all of that out. Take the balance and progress out. Because our case
Thank you. Now I call upon the third opposition member to deliver his
I think environment above human needs, which is not the reflection.
Can you help me? I don't understand. Come on, open your mouth. Am I audible at this level? Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, to an extent you outcast the environment, the lives of animals which are endangered, which are on the brink of extinction, the protected land that is supposed to be protected by the government, the climate change that harms the people on both sides of the house. Because of the certain extent you outcast the sort of environment, you already neglect the sort of principle of you protecting the environment in the first place, which is the heart of the motion, which is on how you can protect the environmental policy making and how you benefit it in the first place. Our government has misunderstood the motion and has been fighting on the front where they're trying to benefit humans all of a sudden, while the motion
clearly begs for something different. We have gone against the very principle of protecting the environment, which is on why we deserve to lose. Panel, I would like to ask you a question. Would you build a school over protected land that means that all of the population of the Malayan tiger will be extinct in a short period of time? I would know the answer, which is no, because of the fact that these sort of things are very vulnerable, which is on the fact that these sort of humans have the intellect, have this sort of capacity to go to somewhere else that is safer to build the sort of schools, but instead they choose this sort of like protected land because of the fact that they prioritize all of the human priorities and not really the environment in the sort of discussion of policy making, which is on the fact that why they lose. Government has already has been uncharitable throughout their whole entire speech, which is on the fact that their case has like this weird stance where they say that they will still care about the environment and also care about the humans. Well, they're fighting on government side and not on opposition side, but on our side of the house it's exclusive that we actually care for both sides of the house. On their side of the house, they just have to defend on why they can protect humans over environment as a whole. And okay, we believe that you will plant those sort of trees back after you plant the hospitals, but the fact that you've already planted the hospitals in that sort of place, the habitat is already lost and you cannot get the habitat back, and all of the animals that live in that sort of place, all of the plants and all of the lives will be extinct and cannot have like a place for them to actually settle on because of the fact that on your ignorance. I'll take you after this. And also, they never really clarified on my second speaker POI on why the Paris Agreement is an anthropocentric policy making. To an extent, it's biocentric because of all of the characteristics that caters towards it, because of all of the reasons that it caters towards every single like stakeholder, all of the animals, all of the environment, and all of the humans. It takes into consideration, therefore it's biocentric and not really anthropocentric, where it only benefits the humans. Please know the activity on your side of the house and our exclusivity. Before I move on to my rebuttal, show that POI.
You said that you won't get the land back after we build the hospital. Yes, but you won't get the lives back when you don't build that hospital either.
You can build hospitals final. We have already clearly lined to you from first until second speaker. You can build these hospitals on non-protected land, on actual land that is licensed by the government. You can build hospitals elsewhere. Why would you build these sort of hospitals in protected land when you try to make policies that makes it show that, okay, you can build it here because of the fact that we prioritize humans as a whole? That is on your side of the house. On our side of the house, we take into consideration that all these people, all of these like stakeholders have their set of values and we value them the same. That means that they have a right to say on whether they want to stay or they don't want to stay. Mother Nature has a right to stay and has the right to say what she wants. Rebuttals stand on and also our clashes. First, on the fact that they say that the humans are the main stakeholder in this debate. Their excuse is that, oh, we're not diminishing plants and animals, we're doing both of them at the same time. It is like a problem on just of the house where first, the motion already states that you prioritize humans only, and that means that you will be building factories in a sense on when you are going to be catering towards the humans. That means that it is more incentivized for you to actually cater towards their profit. That means that overbuilding of hospitals will happen because of the fact that these people want profit. To an extent, they have license towards building hospitals on this protected, they'll build on other protected land because of the precedence of the fact that this sort of like policy will lead into other policies being passed. It means that you on your side of the house, you are more likely to build other like hospitals on other illegal land. Secondly, then on how human needs are thank you. On how they try to say on our side of the house the human needs are neglected. We say no, because of the fact that on that POI, we can still build hospitals on like non-protected land, on land that is able for you to actually build stuff on it, that is licensed by government. This is on your side of the house. You fail to understand from first and state speaker to deserve to lose. Stop badgering, please. On your house, you ignore all of the environment and keep building on the human incentives on like places where it's protected for the environment as a whole. On your side of the house, you don't really cater towards the heart of the motion, which is to protect the environment. Thirdly, then you have proven all of the benefits on your side of the house, where anthropocentric policies will benefit the people. But you fail to do one thing. You fail to really address the harms on your side of the house, which is going to be much unbearable. You have failed from first until third speaker to really address all of the harms and how you will solve it, how you will solve all of the animals that will actually be extinct on your side of the house, all of the harms, all of the plants that will not really have a habitat on your side of the house because of the fact that you are too ignorant. We are not saying that humans are worthless. We are not saying that humans are useless. We are just saying that the plants and the animals and Mother Nature will have a right to say when things are going to be done to them because they deserve a right. We have been harmful towards them for decades. We have been damaging them for decades. So it's finally time for us to actually give them a right to say whether they want, whether they are able to really live in this world where they, where it is a world where we live in too. Finally, then on how, on how humans are not in a position, on how we see that humans inherently are not in a position where they are actually dying, on what the side government is trying to frame to us. But who is actually actively dying on today's date, which is the environment. And this is what we are trying to say. The environment. We have 3 years left before climate change becomes irreversible, and this is something that is really big of an issue. But side government failed to understand because of the fact that they've been trying to cherry pick this sort of situation where they're trying to frame to you that these sort of people are the main stakeholder and the ones that are harming themselves and are being harmed by the nature. But it's the other way around. The humans are the ones that are harming the nature. And this debate isn't whether anthropocentrism is better than biocentrism. It is whether anthropocentrism is the better choice versus biocentrism when the things conflict, when there is a conflict between them, and we say that no, that is not the case. Clarification then on our last stance in the motion. The metric is very simple. It's only on which side is able to get better environmental policy at the end of the day. And we have to prove, and we outside of the house, we only have to prove why biocentric policies are the correct choice in this matter when these sort of things conflict, and not really because of the fact that these things don't conflict. This is something that is only exclusive in this motion, and you really fail to understand that. The contention is really simple. Government has to prove why on their side of the house, they actually they have to prioritize humans over the environment to get better environmental policies, but they fail to do that. On our side of the house, from first and second speaker, we have already given you enough instances on how on the outside of the house these things are able to get better once we actually get these sort of environment things inside the picture. So we already said that we are able to achieve better environmental policies that are more efficient because of the fact that biocentrism will actually cater towards every single party and not only humans. And secondly, we can actually get better support because of the fact that people will understand about these issues more, and the people on like the human side will not attack our movement because of the fact that our movement also caters towards them, and also the environmentalists won't actually attack us because of the fact that we cater towards them also. And thirdly, then we also remove the harmful precedents on your side of the house, where these sort of people who are building on protected land will actually build more factories on protected land in the future days. Remember, this debate is about environmental policy. As long as we prove to you how we cater towards the objective of this motion, which is on the environment, we win in this debate. On their side of the house, they're still sleeping on the fact that on your economy of the on how you can improve the economy and also the well-being of the humans. This is something that is really uncharitable and really irrelevant in this sort of debate, and that's why they lost. Yes, they might protect the humans. Yes, they might justify like all of the benefits on their side of the house towards the human, but they will never justify the amount of harms towards the environment that they are willing to concede. This is not a debate about humans. This is a debate about environment. Please contend.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Thank you. Now both teams are given 3 minutes to prepare the reply speech. The 3 minutes starts now.
Do you understand? Then you have to fill it.
Yeah.
Come here, right? Come on, right.
Anything is fine. This is this paper. There was some wrong environment motion, but yeah. Yeah. Is this third clash? Third clash?
Second clash. We only have 2 clashes.
Second. Yeah, first clashes.
The first one both is. Can you clean that up, okay?
That's spontaneous.
Okay, so whatever it is, guys, whatever it is, miss we have whatever.
I'm not happy with my
I'm also not happy I messed up that things. You saw me as suicide and perceptions of it. Are you able to achieve your stance of protecting the environment?
Is capitalism or is socialism very hard to changes to gain initiatives?
Now I call upon the reply speaker from the opposition to deliver his reply speech.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panos, it is the capitalistic push that side government tries to push to you. It's the failure of the modern society. It is the selfish notes that side government tries to push to you. It's the failure of this side government within this debate. To that extent, they cannot win. 3 minutes on the clock, 3 reasons why we win this debate. Reason number 1, let's look at the perspective of which side understands this debate. I think the problem with this side government is that they failed to look at the last 3 words of this debate. This debate, it says in environmental policy making. The problem with this, there was no contention about how they are able to benefit the environment more than side opposition. This immediately pushes them out of the clarity of this debate, because the debate wants you to discuss about which side is able to have much better, either A, opt-in, but also B, which side is able to pay much better policy. To this extent, they already failed to prove why their responsibility in this debate is fulfilled. What we say to you in understanding is this debate. We push simple ideas. It is the fact that we are able to A, create better policies, B, create more sustainable policies, but also C, create much better policy that is able to be opted on a large mass. That is when we understand this debate far better than whatever side government has said throughout this debate. Second idea then is about this sort of like debate. Again, this debate is about whether which side is able to create better environmental policy. To that extent, second clash, which side is able to create better policy for the environment. They have no contention. They never really argue to you. The best material that they push is about Paris Agreement and the UN, which these 2 examples are blatant lie. To the extent I asked the same POI what aspects of like the Paris Agreement is anthropocentrist, they said, oh, it doesn't necessarily push human needs first. To that extent, it is already biocentrist. To that extent, you already fail in this, proving why the Paris Agreement is innately exclusive to anthropocentrist ideas. But what do we push to you? We push to you 3 main ideas. Number 1, we are able to have better policy just for the simple fact that we hardline and focus to the fact that these policies need to benefit the environment. There was no contention by this. Secondly, how we are able to get more support to the extent the environmental movement and large majority of people who opt in will believe you that you are creating a better policy under our side of the house. But 3, we are able to create more policies. It is only through my speech and one speech we prove to you that the sort of precedent that side government pushes is the same precedent that does not allow any good environmental policies to even exist under their side of the house. But last, even if you don't buy us in the two first substantive framings we told you, we just win on the fact of how charitable we were in this debate. The problem with this side government, they were extremely dismissive and uncharitable. What instances we would like to highlight? Number 1, we told you from the very first speaker, Sini, mine, and one speech that this debate revolves around the environmental movement. Zero contention, completely dismissed, and missed the idea and the principle we pushed to you. We think from this fact there was zero contention and zero engagement from this side from this bench very importantly. But secondly, notice how they like to cherry pick their examples. We think throughout 3 speakers, they are directly lying through their teeth. First speaker said, oh, the UN says it is okay to sacrifice the environment. This is a blatant lie. Even the UN very recently said 3 years before the environment just goes haywire. Second speaker says, oh, the Paris Agreement is an example of like an instance of we are able to push for policies that is beneficial towards the environment. I asked the speaker, what aspects does it benefit human needs and the environment? There was no analysis on how this is exclusive. As in so far, the Paris Agreement innately, by definition, is a biocentrist policy. It is only exclusive to ourselves because A, we prioritize humans, but also B, we prioritize all living things, including the environment and extinct animals. To that extent, we don't think they can win just from these 3 clashes. So panels, oppose.
Speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 1 second. Thank you. Now I call upon the reply speaker from the government to deliver his reply.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you one thing. The breakfast we ate recently this morning comes from animals that got slaughtered. This building that we are currently debating in comes from some sorts of deforestation. Human needs requires, whether you love it or whether you hate it, some form of environmental compromise. Salutations and greetings. I bid again to the most honorable Speaker of the House, to the precise timekeeper, to the most honorable panels of educators, to the worthy opponents who I very much respect, to my comrades fighting alongside me, and to all members of this floor. Again, I would like to reaffirm one thing. This motion is a value motion. It is not a policy motion. Both sides should argue on why one thing is better than the other. But here's the thing. I would like to point one key inconsistency in the entire case line by side opposition. They have confused the definition of the word biocentrism. Biocentrism means to put the environment, nature, plants, and animals on the same par with humans. But if you take a look at one of their primary case line, they say environment is better over humans. This is one key flaw that we have to take note of. And now, I would like to make one thing very clear. We are going to be proving to you why our side wins this case, why side opposition lose the debate, and why should our clashes stand with us. Now, let's start to summarize the case line on side opposition. Side opposition relies on hardcore optimism, whereas our side government understands the reality that human needs just simply has to come first. They keep fortifying the fact that every human needs are excessive, which it is not. That's why it's called needs, because it is not excessive. When it's excessive, that is called the human wants. Again, I would like to make one thing very, very clear. We want to put human needs, such as hospital, schools, over taking care of the environment. But at the same time, we care for the environment in line with humans' interests. We do not in any way whatsoever diminish the importance of environmental sustainability. But what we do tell you, we want to put ourselves first, then the trees down there. Because here's the thing. Look at the case line presented by side opposition. They have the audacity to tell the entire house that a tree and a human being have the same worth. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you, if your life here is being threatened and then there's a tree that is being threatened to cut down, which one would you save first? Obviously, you would save the human life, because human life is simply worth more than whatever plants or animals this world has to offer. Now, let's also talk about the popular support for environmental sustainability. Yes, we do agree. There is popular support for environment movements across the world. That is support to preserve the environment, not the support to put environment first before humans. Because here's the thing, one thing is made clear. In our side of the house, we tell you that human welfare comes first without diminishing environmental importance. We have told you many statistics, many historical examples where a side opposition has failed to give even one thing. We tell you how we put human needs first as we preserve the environment. Right now, in the current status quo, you already have the European Green Deal. You already have Environmental Sustainability Act, and so. We are anthropocentric, but at the same time, we care for the environment. That is why side government has clearly won this debate. Biocentrism is too idealistic to be implemented, to even be preferred over anthropocentrism. Why? Because here's the thing. One thing that we would like to make very clear. As our stance itself says, we support this motion because although the environment matters, human needs must come first. We care for humans first, and then we care for the environment. That's the side government. Side opposition keeps telling you that we don't care about the environment at all, which we do care, but we just put humans first. With that, I would like to rest my case.
Speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
That wasn't the same during the prize speech. I should have said the whole biocentrism thing during my speech. It's just very shaded roses. You know,
It's a feel good thing. I know I can do it. I think the mountain will be very good. I think it's a 4. Feminist figures with many different. My favorite. Oh, it's nice. Sounds. I think we have really have. It's been nice. The basic nice.
my hands are freezing.
Second page from the left, Vika is at C. I know.
After the answer purified, after the was purified, he said, Yes, we can all. I'm not going to cover. We get the drink.
Members of the House, all debaters have delivered their speeches now. It's the end of our debate competition for this round. As for all debaters, you may leave this House after this. The House is adjourned. Thank you.
So in this life, don't you try to move too fast, or the good times will roll by. So don't just slip by. These days they will come and go. That's how you build a good life. One step, two steps, three, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older. Trying to figure out where I fit in. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. One step, 2 steps, 3, and it's over. 5 and to 6 again. 7 steps, 8 steps, 9, and I'm older. Trying to figure out where I fit in. So in this life, hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. So hold yourself tight. So hold yourself tight. Don't you try to move too fast. So in this life, hold yourself tight. Everything will work out fine. Just hold yourself tight. You need to. Don't you try to move too fast. Just hold yourself tight. Please do. Everything will work out fine. Hold yourself tight. Yeah. So in this life, don't you try to move too fast, or the good times will roll by. So don't just slip by.